Hello weirdos, welcome back to my channel. My name is EmmaAbe and we talk about books here on this channel. Today we're going to be doing something that I haven't done in a while, and that is a book tag. I know I haven't done one in, it feels like forever. Today I wanted to do one just because I thought it's about time to have a light-hearted, fun video where we can just sit down and chat. Yeah. So the tag I'm going to be doing, as you guys probably know by the title of this video, is the Library Lovers tag. I just thought it would be a little bit of fun to show some love to the libraries. They do so much work. This tag was originally created, I think, about 7 to 8 years ago by Pendy Books. I will leave her video and channel linked in the description down below. Oh, actually, before I start, I'm part of 2 libraries. There is the one in my hometown that I'm a part of, but there's also one in Cincinnati just the Cincinnati Public Library that I use, and they are both very instrumental to my reading life, and I'll talk more about them as we answer the questions. So the first question is, how often do you visit your local library? So the one back in my hometown, I do not visit too often, but that honestly depends on kind of like what is happening. So last summer, so the summer of 2021, I visited it on a nearly daily basis because I would go there and do my work, and it was a great way for me to get out of the house and be somewhere and also be in a relatively safe space where I could work in peace. And yeah, so I visited it on a daily basis. Today, as of right now, the filming of this video, I do not visit it physically too often. And that goes to the same with the Cincinnati Public Library. I don't visit it too regularly, although I did visit it today actually to return a book. So I don't usually visit it often. Sometimes I go to events, like I did for one of their Black History Month celebration. I did some of those. But yeah, for the most part, not a lot of physical visiting, unless I have to pick up books or return books, and that kind of happens kind of frequently. But digitally, using online resources, I visit those things all of the time, practically on a daily basis. Because I use a lot of resources like Overdrive to get a lot of my audiobooks. As you guys know, I am dyslexic. I have dyslexia and ADHD, and oh my gosh, if I did not have audiobook resources, I would not be able to read nearly as much as I do. And I primarily use the library because audiobooks can be so expensive. I do own a few audiobooks. That's not actually true. It's more than a few. I don't have an up-to-date number. I haven't really looked in that part of my books, my book catalog in some time. But I do own, I want to say somewhere in between 10 and 100. But seeing the volume of books that I go through, if I had to buy each of my audiobooks, that would be a problem. The next question is, are you the type of person who checks out more books than you know you can read, or are you someone who only checks out the exact amount of books that you intend on reading before they are due? So I'm definitely the first type of person. I will check out all of the books. I will check out I will be hitting my limits on the amount of audiobooks that I can check out. I think right now I have a bag and it's right next to me, and I don't think I can lift it up because it's so heavy, but I'll try. This is my bag of library books. It's full. There's 22 books, I think, as of right now in this bag. And I fully intend to read all 22 of them, but I just don't know how long it's going to take, so I tend to cycle through them. So I get to them when I get to them, and then I return them to the library, or I renew them. I do all of that stuff. If I do have a limited amount of renewals, I keep track and return them to the library and then check them out again. It's a whole system. And the same goes for audiobooks. I think that I have around 30 audiobooks checked out from both libraries. Yeah, and even more on hold. And I kind of do that because I don't really know what I'm going to be in the mood for or what I'm going to have available. A lot of books, a lot of times I'll just put a bunch of stuff on hold. So when I renew them, they'll go back on hold. So it might take me a while to get it again. Or they'll like constantly be renewing, and I usually have like around 50 books that I want to read. So I don't really know when the audiobook is going to be available. So I like the physical books to just kind of be there so I can pick them up whenever the audiobook becomes available, and vice versa. And that's just kind of how I tackle it. So the next question is, how old were you when you got your first library card? I don't specifically remember. I know I had a library card when I was a child because we visited the library often, but often we would just use my parents' cards or my siblings' cards to check stuff out. So I don't remember ever having a specific library card myself, but I know in high school I got a new one because I wanted to check out books and get connected to the Overdrive, and to do that you have to have a library card. So that was definitely sometime in high school. I want to say I was, or maybe it was earlier than that, middle school. So around like 13 to 14, I'm going to say, possibly even earlier. And I think the major driver for me to do that is because I would go on international trips. Not very often. I went to like 3 from like in the span of like 10 years. And oftentimes you don't have connected to the internet, so I couldn't like listen to YouTube or anything like that. So I would download audiobooks, and it was great, especially when I was living in China, because like literally YouTube is banned. So if you do not have a VPN set up on your phone, you cannot get onto YouTube. And I didn't want to have to go to podcasts and download like 5 podcasts. So I would download a bunch of books, and that's how I would read like a ton of books. So I tended to read prior to my BookTube time. I tended to read more often when I was traveling, just because like I probably would not have access to the internet. And now that has changed because I'm on BookTube and I talk to you guys, so I read all the time. Yeah, so that's when I think I first got my local library card. And then I got my Cincinnati library card when I joined BookTube, and I realized that I needed access to a lot more books, a lot more audiobooks, in order to be reading and talking about the things that I wanted to talk about. It's a whole system. So now I have access to 2 different Overdrive accounts where I can check one. Like the one in Cincinnati has the larger collection of audiobooks because it is a bigger library. There are more resources, so they can buy more audiobooks. So they tend to have them more often than my local library back in my hometown. But the lines in the Cincinnati library can be kind of long. So if it's a really popular book that might take 11 weeks to get from the Cincinnati library, it might be like only 2 weeks or no time at my local library. So I really do need both of them. It's all very essential. And I want to say I was about 20 years old when I got my Cincinnati library card. The next question is, do you go to your library looking for a particular book, or do you check out anything that piques your interest? I tend to go for particular books. That has varied over like the years. I'm not saying that now I won't go and just peruse the shelves and pick up whatever particular fancies my interest, but I tend to have an idea of what are like 50 books that I want to read. And oftentimes I embark on projects where it's not possible to either buy the books, or it would be cost prohibitive to buy the books, and I really need the library to get them. Examples of that would include the BookTube prize. A lot of times I have no interest in actually buying the books, and I like to have physical copies. So I go and check them out from the library, so I can still like have the physical book while I read along with the audiobook. Other things are also the Goodreads choice stuff that I do. Oftentimes I have no interest in buying some of those books. Other times I'm really excited about the books that won and that I'm going to be reading, so I buy some of those. But that's not always the case. So that's largely what these 22 books are. It's books that like are for the BookTube prize or for my Goodreads project usually. And also recently, I embarked on this personal reading project that's separate from both of those, where it's reading recommendations from the Story Graph. And there was this one book, Oku, where I couldn't buy it anywhere. I think A combination of the printing shortages and labor shortages just makes you can't find this one volume of the manga, the first volume of the manga. So I checked my library and they had it, and that's how I've been able to read it without having to buy the ebook. I don't want to knock ebooks, but they are not my favorite medium. But for other people, it would work great. But it's just not my favorite. Yeah, so that's the answer to that question. The next question is, do you use your library just to check out books, or do you check out DVDs and audiobooks, etc.? So I kind of already answered this question. That is a yes. I most frequently use the libraries to have access to their Overdrive accounts for their audiobooks. But when I was growing up, we didn't have access to cable. So anything that we wanted to watch, we had to have actual physical CDs of. So we would go to the library, find seasons of television shows that we wanted to see. That's actually how we first watched things like Avatar and Bones, some of the TV shows that are my favorites still to this day. We got them that way. That's how we saw a lot of our movies, because we didn't own all of the movies that we always wanted to watch. Also, one thing that I would do a lot was get playaways, which are basically audiobooks. I'll find a picture and I'll put it up what a playaway is if you guys don't know what it is. But it's basically a portable audiobook before like Overdrive was like a thing. So before then, to get books on tape, you would actually either have to get the actual tapes, and I do have some tapes of audiobooks. Like, we were gifted the entire audiobook collection of the Harry Potter series, so we have all of those on physical tapes. Then you had to use CDs, and if you don't have like a portable CD player, which we didn't, which was kind of silly, we should have definitely had one. You know what? That's how I would sit and listen to audiobooks growing up, is I would put them in like the CD player. But the alternative version is a playaway. So in elementary school, I would use those very frequently. I brought them to school with me, and that's how I would like hang the playaways, because they came with a lanyard. I'd hang them around my neck and like go to gym class and like have my books and be reading in gym class. I did a surprising amount of reading during gym class throughout my high school experience and never got in trouble for it. Weird. But hey, I'm thankful. I read a lot of good books in gym class. Yeah, so those things were very like instrumental and necessary in my childhood that I wouldn't have access to if we didn't have a library. From what section of your library do you check out a majority of your books? I thought for a while the answer would be like nonfiction, but when we're talking physical copies of things, I think it varies a lot. It's a pretty even spread. I couldn't tell you if there was a predominant genre, because I do use the libraries to kind of explore different things. In terms of Overdrive, I do think it leans more towards nonfiction, but I've been liking a lot more fiction recently, so I have been reading a lot, getting a lot more fiction recs. Yeah, I think that pretty much answers the question. I don't really know. And the last question in this tag are, what is your favorite part of your local library? So I think for my library back in my hometown, they've got this really great maker space. So you can make like stickers and buttons, and they have 3D printers. So there's really fun things that you can do with the maker space. I really enjoy it. I really like their breakout rooms too. They're very modern in style, and yeah, I think they're great. For the library in Cincinnati, I don't spend like a ton of time actually in those physical locations, but the main library in downtown Cincinnati has this really cool font, like a fountain. I'll see if I can find a picture of it. And it's like made out of books, and it's really cool. I think it's an awesome piece of art. I need to go to like the main library at some point and actually get to wander around what's in there. But I don't often do it because it is in downtown Cincinnati, and it's just slightly more involved than walking to my local branch. Yeah, I think that's all of the questions. If you want to be tagged in this to do this, you absolutely can. I'm tagging you. You can say I tagged you. And then I think I will leave a few specific people that I'd like to see do this tag in the comment, in the description down below. So there you go. There is my library lovers tag. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Do you have a local library? Do you use your local library? Tell me something that you love about your local library. All right, thank you guys so much for watching and have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.